Hello and welcome to our tutorial session on WP Rocket. Now, I do want to start off by saying that WP Rocket is a premium plugin. It is paid. Now, I think it's about $50 annually. I do know that they do have some promo codes that you can look up, try to save you some money, but if you are not a developer, aren't that familiar with WordPress and coding and all that, it could be a good option for you because it's very user-friendly and it's very easy to set up, and it will improve your website's performance very quickly. So look into it if you think it's a good idea. This tutorial session will go through how to set it up and all the options, and let's just go ahead and get started. Now, the first thing you're going to notice is once you go to install WP Rocket, you are going to, if you already have a caching plugin, you're going to get a warning because they're not going to work well together. So you're going to want to go ahead, for the purposes of this tutorial, I have W3 Total Cache set up. So you're going to want to go ahead and deactivate W3 Total Cache. So deactivate there and then activate WP Rocket. So once that activates, okay, you're going to be able to go in the settings here. You'll see the settings for WP Rocket, which will take you to the dashboard. And here's where you're going to go through all the settings. So you'll see the dashboard here. The first thing is cache. It'll automatically be checked to enable caching for mobile devices, so keep that checked. And if you are using a modern type of theme, like it says here, most themes now you do not have to have this checked if you are using responsive design for mobile. So you could just go ahead and keep that unchecked unless special circumstances you might have some sort of older theme that's not the case. But most of the times you're going to just be able to keep this unchecked here. And user cache here is also going to be defaulted to not checked. Now, most of if you are running a website that doesn't have any user specific restrictions, maybe like a paywall or that kind of thing, most of the time you can leave this unchecked unless you have special user specific content, restricted content, paywall type things that you're going to want to cache per user. Then you can go ahead and check this option. Otherwise, you're just running a basic site. You are not going to need that. Now, cache lifespan, it's going to automatically default to 10 hours. So the files that are older than that are going to be deleted, like it says up here. And like it says, we're going to go through the preloading, so you could go ahead and set up the preloading if you want to do that after the expiration. Most of the time you can keep this at 10 hours. If you have a lot of new content and a lot of new things happening on your site, you may want to lower this, but most of the time you could just keep this at 10 hours and you'll be good to go. All right, so go ahead and click on File Optimization. Now, this is like the meat of a lot of what's going to be going on in WP Rocket and a lot of the improvements that are going to be made. So CSS files, click on Minify CSS. It says it can break things. Most of the time you should be all right. Just check and make sure after you're done saving this that your site still is functional. Hopefully, if you're doing this on a staging site, that's good. And just make sure that things don't break. Most of the time you should be okay with this here though. So this is going to remove all the white space. And this here is going to combine all your CSS into one file. Now you'll notice if you do run one of the page speed, like page speed insights or GT metrics on your site afterwards, you're going to notice that it does combine it into one CSS file, all of everything into one file, and it will show up as if there's anything unused CSS, it's still going to show up on your results page there. Now, you're going to have to use a separate asset management plugin that
Asset cleanup is a free one. I'll go over that in another video. If that can break your site though, if you don't know what you're doing. So I would recommend consulting a developer if you're not really sure what you're doing. This will still increase your performance though, even if some of the CSS is unused. Just combine it into one CSS file. Here you can exclude anything. You could most of the time just leave this the way that it is. And this right here, if you can check this is going to stop the render blocking. A lot of times you'll see render blocking as an error in PageSpeed Insights. If you check this, it will stop that and will increase your load time like it says here. But the one caveat you want to look for is sometimes on some themes I've seen that you'll see a flash of unstyled content, which if you'll notice when you load some sites, there's like all the HTML is loading first, and then you'll see it all change when the CSS starts to load. And if that looks really, really bad, you could stop that by unchecking this. Also, check out for your CLS and make sure that the CLS is not too high, because this can affect that. I think the new versions of WP Rocket, it's pretty good. So I think you should be okay if you check optimize CSS delivery, see how it works without, and just make sure that everything looks good. But this will take care of the render blocking issues. It will also create critical CSS, which it does that automatically. So what that is it'll, I don't want to explain this. The CSS that loads on the first screen of your page is going to load right away, but it's going to defer all the other CSS to later on, where the stuff that's not loading right away is going to get deferred to later, which will stop the render blocking. It'll make your page load faster. Now, I've had good success with the automatic, the files they create automatically, but it does give you the option to create fallback CSS if it is not working properly. So that's that. And then go on to JavaScript files. Now, remove the jQuery migrate. You could just go ahead and check this. It tells you a little bit more about that here. I don't think it's going to really affect most websites regardless, but you could go ahead and check that. Anyway, minify, this is just the same as the CSS, minify, but for JavaScript, combine into one.js. Now, the same as the CSS, though, it combines it, but if you have JavaScript on that page that's not being used, it's still going to show up in the unused JS on your page speed results. So you can go through with the separate asset management plugin and remove those unused JavaScript files, but just make sure that you know what you're doing or consult with somebody who does, so you don't mess anything up on your site. But for this purpose, this will help to improve the page speed by combining, minifying all of the JavaScript files. And this will right here will defer it and stop the render blocking, the same as the CSS. Keep this checked, safe mode for jQuery. Keep this checked here. You're good to go. Save your changes. Might take a second here to do that. And then what you're going to want to do is next go to the media tab here. So through the media tab, you can enable lazy loading. Lazy loading for images and iframes and videos. So this is going to stop the error on your page speed results that, I forget exactly how they word it, that to defer the loading of all your images. So if you're getting that, then check both of these. This will do it for images, and this will do it for iframes and videos. If you want to replace the YouTube with the preview image, go ahead and check there, and that'll take care of that. This you pretty much always want to have checked. Disable emojis. You don't really ever need that. And embeds. So you're probably going to want to go ahead and check this. This is going to prevent people from embedding content from blacklisted sites, and it also prevents you from doing that too. Just most of the time, you're probably going to want that checked. And WebP compatibility. Now it depends. If you are using a separate plugin for image compression and image performance, it's going to give you a warning a lot of the time. I have Imagify, which is from the same company, also running on this site. So you are going to get this warning here, and if you need more info, you can click more info. It's basically saying that you don't need to do it because you're already doing that on another plugin. So keep that the way it goes, click save, and move on to the next tab here. So you're going to notice to activate preloading, like we talked about a little before, is already checked. And if you are using a SEO plugin like Yoast or All-in-One SEO, it's when you check here to activate sitemap based cache preloading, this is also going to come up here. So you could automatically preload your sitemap, and it integrates with your SEO plugin if you're using All-in-One or Yoast. So check. Enable link preloading. What this is going to do is it's going to start to preload new pages on your site when a user is hovering over a link. It is not going to help any of your page performance, but it will improve the perceived speed of from the user's perspective if you have this checked. Prefetch DNS requests. What this is going to do is if you're running third-party code on your site, like for example, analytics or Facebook Pixel, these types of things that have requests to third-party sites, you can put those URLs in here and it'll prefetch those files for you, and it'll make it load faster. But I don't recommend doing this unless you know what you're doing, because it can cause problems with your website. So I would recommend talking to a developer first before you start trying to do this on your own. Also, next here is preload fonts. What this is going to do is this will take care of any errors that you get in your page speed insights for preload key requests. So if it's telling you to preload fonts and you're getting that error, just put them all in here. You don't need to put your domain name, just slash and then the location of the font that the PageSpeed Insights gives you. And once you put that in here, that will take care of that error for you. So just save changes, good to go. Advanced rules, you don't need to really worry about most of this stuff. This is just mostly on a case-by-case basis. And database tab. Now you'll see you do want to clear out your database. You'll notice, especially if you're running a page builder like Elementor, this type of things, it's going to make your database huge if you're doing a lot of revisions. And this is going to clean out your database. It's going to make every time someone tries to pull information from your database, it's going to make it run a lot faster. So clean out your database here. Any sort of comment spam, trash comments, temporary, transients, optimize your tables. Now, before you do this, I've never really seen it break, but a database, but every single time that you change your database, back up your database first, because you never know. It may break your database, and that is not good. So make sure you just take a quick backup of your database before making any changes to your database. That is always a best practices. If you're on a staging site, that's better, but back up your database. CDN, you can enable content delivery network, not required if you're using Cloudflare or Sakuri. This will allow you to put your CNAMEs in here and everything to do with your CDN. So if you're using a content delivery network that gives you a CNAME, put all that information in here and integration will happen. Control the heartbeat API activity. So this will save your resources. Click here, control heartbeat. So this will reduce all the activity from and now click on the heartbeat tab. Now what this is going to do, make sure this is checked to control heartbeat. This is going to increase the performance of your website when the backend behavior, the post editor. Now change this to disable here on the front end. But basically this is going to reduce all the activity and frequency that communicates with when you're in the back end, post editor, reduce, disable. Good to go. Add-ons. This will actually change the third-party options. Instead of loading the Google Analytics third-party, you'll be able to do it from your host. So make sure that this isn't breaking anything and your Google Analytics is still working. If you're using Tag Manager, you could check in there. And same with the Facebook, you could just toggle these to on, but make sure that it doesn't break anything with your tracking and recording. The Facebook I have seen break on themes before, Google not really, but just double check and make sure everything's still running smoothly before you finish. And here you can, if you are running Cloudflare or Sakuri, you can check and change all the options in there. Now, personally, I just run all of the options through Cloudflare, but if you do want to change the options from here, you can. It'll allow you to clear cache and do all those things. You could just enter your API code, boom, 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 and save. And in your tools here, you can export all your settings, import from another settings if you are running multiple websites. And you could roll back if there's a problem with this version, roll back to the last version. And that's pretty much it. Once it's set up, if you go to the dashboard, you can clear your cache here, preload your cache here, or if you need to regenerate that critical CSS, here's where you do that. And that is our tutorial on WP Rocket. Like I said, it's pretty user-friendly, a lot more than some of the other caching plugins and performance plugins. So it is a good option for beginners. It will greatly improve the performance of your website with just a few clicks. So I highly recommend it. And if you think that the costs the benefits will outweigh the cost, then I think that it's a good idea for your website. If you do have any more questions, feel free to ask. You can always contact us, and we're there to help. So thanks, and come back next time.